Everything you do before the trip will help you during the trip. I'm sure that you have heard me saying this phrase, but what about the maintenance after the trip? In this video, I'm gonna show you what I have done on my Tenere after 70,000 kilometers. So if you have nothing to do, grab your favorite drink and stay with me. Welcome back. Some of you will remember that a few days before I come back from my trip from Magadan, I released a video in which one I promised that I'm gonna do this long-term after the trip maintenance videos. So here you go, this is the first one. I knew that Yamaha is a reliable brand, that's why I bought it. But even so, after so many kilometers spent in many different riding and road conditions, even I was surprised to see how little maintenance I had to do with this motorcycle. On the trip itself I had around 39,000 kilometers, but at the moment my Tenere has on the clock around 70,000 kilometers. For that mileage, the spare parts that I had bought, or the price that I have paid for spare parts, service, mechanics, anything, it's nothing compared to the experience and the fun that I got by just riding this motorcycle for the last 2 years. As usual, I talk a lot, but this is what happened every time when I start talking about this motorcycle. I got excited. Anyway, let's go to the maintenance video. The first thing that I did after I come back home was to change the sprockets. The chain I changed in Poland, but the sprockets were the same that I left home 40,000 kilometers away. So if I want to preserve the chain, I need to change the sprocket as well. As you can see, the front was really badly worn out. The best option will be to change it at the same time, but because I wanted to bring this chain home as a souvenir, I decided to change only the chain. Anyway, the job was done from my friend and professional mechanic plumbing in his garage. I respect his work. Actually, he's the only person that's touching my motorcycle at the moment. So as you can see, the rear is not that bad, but it is normal. The front sprocket usually wears much faster. The rear was fine. But anyway, it's need to be replaced, as I said, to preserve the life of the chain as maximum as possible. And after this procedure, we finished for that day, because he was busy with a lot of motorcycles and a lot of work to do. And of course, I respect his work times and everything. I left everything for a few weeks' time. But after that, of course, I continued with the service. This time I plan to change the rear brake disc, plan to change the oil in the forks, spark plugs, and a few more things. As you can see here, I have the sparks and the rear brake disc, original from Yamaha. And to change the spark plugs is not easy at all on this model. I'll say that you have to put 2 free fat fingers in the position for only 1 slim finger. But anyway, as I said, he's a professional and he has done this change many times, so he knows his stuff, and of course was able to swap the spark plugs. And as you can see, the spark plugs that I've got around 40,000 kilometers, and they were not that bad compared to the new spark plugs. The difference was only around 1 millimeter. So they can easily last, I'll say, another 20,000 kilometers before they really finished. So it is safe to say that 40-50,000 kilometers with spark plug or spark plugs will be just not a problem at all. At least in my case, and I guess in many other cases. And of course, all of this needs to go back. Again, the same tight procedure. But it is not that bad if you know what are you doing. Like Plamen knows, he works with motorcycles for more than 25 years. So, as I said, he's a professional. And of course, the heater always works. Anyway, after that was a time to change the oil of the forks. And it was changed when the motorcycle was on 27,000 kilometers. Now it's on 70. So these socks also were mounted on 27,000 kilometers before I left for Magadan. And yeah, I even checked the bearings on the steering column and they were fine, no problems whatsoever. On 70,000 I haven't touched them so far. You can see what is the condition of the fork after we removed one of the socks. Perfectly shiny, no problems, no scratches, no dents, no rust, nothing at all. The socks, of course, were worn, or at least were very dusty, but there were no cracks, no holes, nothing. They survived all the dust and mud and everything and protect the shiny part of the fork as well. So it was time to change the oil inside, because the oil was on 40,000 kilometers, maybe even more, I couldn't remember exactly. On 27 I left, but we changed it a little bit before that when I changed the springs. And the condition of the oil was not bad, except some water, or which is usually go on the bottom. You can see it right now. It has this dark color. Yes, this is water that is usually stay on the bottom of your forks. The water goes there because of condensation. When you have cold and hot temperatures, the water makes this condensation, and then it's always go like a water inside of your oil. That's why it's a very good idea to change it regularly. The oil that I used was from Motorex 5W. Exactly the amount that we put inside I cannot tell you now, but the air gap that we kept was 90 millimeters air gap. Yes. And keep in mind that I have on my forks stiffer springs, 6.6 Newton meters. So it will be different if you have the stock springs. And after that, of course, everything needs to be assembled back together and mount with the new socks. Of course, new socks. Again, neoprene socks from Acerbis. I highly recommend these socks to each and every one of you. They really protect and they will extend the life of your fork significantly. Since I've got this type of socks, I never need to worry about seals anymore. So, as I said, I recommend it to everyone. Do it and you will never regret. It was time to move to the rear side of the motorcycle, or to change the brake rotor of the rear wheel. It was original rotor, 70,000 kilometers, so it has a lot of signs of braking signs, I will say. And this Tenere or at least I use the rear brake a lot, so I change brake pads on the rear every 8, 9 to 10,000 kilometers, but I think this is fine. And now you're gonna see after just a second how badly it was worn. It was already start to make this big canals into the brake pads, and it was time to change it anyway. Nothing lasts forever. So 70,000, it's a good result. You can see how it looks like, and it is very different compared to the new. I went and bought original disc from Yamaha. I believe that with the original Yamaha disc it will last longer. And yeah, it's always better when you have the chance to buy original parts. And the bolts need to be tightened with a Newton meter wrench, of course, no more than 25 Newton meters. This is very important, and they need to be also glued. So this is a procedure that you have to follow if you don't want to have any problems on the road. So be careful with the Newton meter wrenches, because you can buy a cheap model fake and then it will easily cut your bolts. After that, of course, he checked also the linkage. I asked him to do it because I've done it once. I checked it once on 27,000 kilometers and I lubed it properly. But now after 40,000 kilometers, especially after Magadan road with all of this mud and water and sand and dust all the time, I just wanted to see what is the condition. And for my surprise and his surprise, it was perfect. All the bearings were in perfect condition, no water inside, no rust, no dust. So Yamaha did really well this combination with the bearings and seals and everything. And I was even surprised to see the result from everything. But once again, when something is done well, it is done well. And of course, once again, I would like to say a huge thank you to my friend Plamen to help me organize all of this. And now I'll go back to the office and tell you everything about the numbers, guys. Usually people make notes about their maintenance, when exactly the oil was changed, the spark plugs, the sprockets and stuff like that. I personally make decorations. Here are my last two chains and sprockets. This is the brake disc that I changed yesterday. And here are the two sets of spark plugs that I have changed so far. I even pre-drilled the holes to the rest that I'm gonna change during the years. Calculation: the chain, sprockets, front and rear cost me around 150 euros. The oil for the forks was 20 euros, rear disc 60 euros, spark plugs 40 euros. total 270 euros. I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for mechanic, but there is no reason for that. First is because he is a very good friend of mine, second because I lived in Bulgaria and the prices vary everywhere around the world. In Bulgaria might be very cheap, but in Germany, for example, will be expensive, so calculate it by your local mechanics. Anyway, I hope that this video will be useful to at least one person. Press like or dislike, whatever it deserves. If you subscribe, even better. See you in the next one. Ciao.